All right, young scholars. This week, we are in module number 3, starting tomorrow, or unit 3, covering chapters 5 and 6. You're going to have, as usual, your weekly discussion question. This week is going to be, what criteria are commonly used in the selection process? Which criteria should be given the highest priority? Why is the criteria given the highest priority? Then you're going to have your case study. This Hudson Guitars case study is on page 201 in your course textbook. Again, you're simply answering those 4 questions related to the case study, not the 4 questions from the textbook related to the case study. And as I've been giving you throughout so far, on the course blog, I have here for Unit 3 suggestions on information you might want to use from the specific textbook information. So for discussion question number 3, you might want to use the materials covered on pages 149 to 150, which touch on the various selection criteria, such as total quality management, lean processes, reliability, and sustainability to answer initially. Then you need to support your argument as to why one should be given priority over the others. For example, you might choose financial from that 2 pages of information as your top priority. You'll have to support why you would decide that. Explain why through your support. Then for case number 3, the first question, you're going to utilize the production process layout concepts discussed on pages 189 through 196 to support your argument. For question 2, you might want to utilize the production technology concepts discussed on page 196 through 198 to support your answer. For question 3, you might want to utilize the production metrics concepts discussed on pages 194 to 196 to support your answer. It's perfectly fine to include all of those metrics or provide a mix, 1 or 2, 2 or 3, entirely up to you. But if you use or mention all of them, at least give some information about them. Then question 4, you're going to utilize the packaging discussion on pages 191 through 194 to support your answer. Obviously, you're welcome to include shipping processes in your answer there too. And then, as always, you have your weekly quiz. As I recommended in the initial video, your quizzes, they're 10 true or false questions and 10 multiple choice questions. I had no control over these. It seems to just be 20 random questions taken from the textbook. So I would just sit there with chapter 5 and 6, look through, answer the questions, be done with it. So this week for module 3, there's nothing that I feel I need to add on to the additional resources, the PowerPoints, as I've been doing in past weeks. However, I do want to point out for next week, for unit number 4, I will do a recording on the 20th, next Monday, for all of you. But you will notice that next week, everything, like always, is due the Monday night. However, keep in mind that next Thursday is Thanksgiving, so you may be pretty busy, let's say Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So keep that in mind as you're going through this week's work. You may want to do this week's work a little quicker than usual. So this way, maybe you start next week's work on Monday and get your discussion done, your case study done, and then maybe you just have the quiz to do last. But as mentioned, I always tend to recommend the quiz first because it's the lowest amount of points for all of the assessments. So the primary thing I wanted to talk about today is within these discussion posts. So I assume that when you do other Kane online classes, they have no issues with the 5 random posts that contribute nothing to the conversation. So here we have an excellent, well explained response initially from Anthony. Then we scroll down and we have a response from Diego that adds nothing to the conversation. We have another response from Jeffrey that adds nothing to the conversation. It doesn't necessarily matter what the length is. You generally want to have something that adds on to the conversation. So for example, asking a question might drive the conversation. So that might work. As you scroll down, you can see there's other examples of excellent initial posts. In the announcement I sent out, you can see specific individuals I'm recommending to look at their work. Additionally, when you're making your post, you have all these resources available. Put things in your own words. You don't want to copy exactly from another website. If you've had operations management, you've seen a logistics definition before. Within the textbook, there were 5 different types of logistics. You could have just used those examples and created your own specific example as you need to. So I haven't looked at a lot of these since last night when I sent out the announcement. So if you have or if you have not received a score yet and you went in and added a new post or a response post that's more along the lines of what I may be looking for, I haven't specifically updated the grade yet. So again, ideally, instead of what Kane Online seems to require, which is 5 responses like this that contribute absolutely nothing to the discussion, you want to have 1 strong initial post and 1 strong response that's going to further drive the conversation. For example, here, a mention of transportation and supply to deliver goods on time. Who was that? Brooke added to the conversation by bringing in a type of company, FedEx. All right, there's a big issue during Christmas time, and they always have to make issues or resolve issues related to Christmas time due to the potential issues they have with their customers. So again, you want to have 1 strong initial post, 1 strong response post. You don't want to have 1 initial post and then 5 responses that add nothing to the conversation, even though that's what the Kane Online rubric says. I figured this would make it easier for all of you, but I'm noticing through the first 2 units here that nobody's bothering to watch the videos and make that adjustment. Again, I wanted to point out that, like I said, next week, the Thursday is Thanksgiving, so you might be busy over that week. Excuse me. So keep that in mind. Additionally, as I'm pointing out in some of these comments that I've been making on when you submit your case studies, so the case study questions are all visible right on Canvas for you to view. I've already compiled and printed out all of these questions, so I know everything that I'm looking for. So when you're submitting them, you don't necessarily need to have all of these questions listed. Just make sure that you break up each of your responses. It could just be a simple space in Microsoft Word is perfectly fine to that end. And as I've pointed out, you're more than welcome to jump ahead. As far as I understand, All of these modules are readily available for you to go through right now. All 8 are open, so it's entirely up to you. You might want to go through, let's say you have an extra 2 hours this weekend. You might want to go through and let's say do Unit 3 and Unit 4 quiz this week. As long as the modules are open, you're more than welcome to do that. So I noticed there's one participant. Amber, do you have any questions for me?
No, but thank you for clarifying what you require for the discussion questions. And also I appreciate that you actually give feedback on the case studies that you make us do. So thank you for that.
No problem. All I'm looking for on the case studies and in my face-to-face classes, Jillian here and Simona will tell you, I have it done a different way than they require for the online. All I'm looking for is, here's my answer, here's the support of that answer. So as long as you're doing that, you should be in good shape and getting the 75s out of 75s. If I ask like a specific question, you might, get dropped down to like a 70, for example. And I'll basically ask that question like, oh, well, you kind of made this argument, but didn't really support it. So there might be a few points taken off for that. So
Would it be like, maybe this is like a dumb question, but would it be like acceptable? So like under my post, I had a short response. I forgot who it was. You just showed it, but um I said thank you to someone for clarifying the definition of logistics. My definition or my answer wasn't I guess correct. But I did just like say thank you for the clarification, not as like a response, because I did end up doing like another response because I understood that there wasn't really any substance to it. So I'm guessing like that's okay, right?
yeah, so you would have to go and then make, your third response to drive the conversation. So
Right.
a lot of individuals are still just, hey, here's my initial post. And, then they'll have 5 posts that, like you said, don't drive the conversation further. And, they're not going to get that 30 out of 30 because, like this example, great post this week. Really nice breakdown on private and public. Logistics is very diverse and expansive. Also, the crux of every business success. So you already know that from reading the chapters, looking at the PowerPoints. That
Mhm.
doesn't really add anything to the conversation. So a lot of people are still just making 5 of those posts, and that doesn't help out at all. Whereas, let's see here. So like I mentioned, this one here, you might want to add like a conversation starter, a question at the end. That might work to drive the question further or the conversation further. But necessarily, like some people this week, like may have kind of gone overboard with this a little with their initial post. So like the length of the post doesn't necessarily matter as long as your initial post is going to start the conversation. Your response post you want to have continue the conversation. So that's the best way to describe it. And
Okay.
as I pointed out before, on the blog here that I've created for the class, all of these suggestions for like, hey, maybe look at this for the discussion. Hey, maybe look at this for the case study questions. It's all up on that blog that I've sent out a couple times with these announcements that I've sent out. So I'm kind of limited in what I'm allowed to do by Kane Online, but I figured doing it that way where, hey, you're only doing 2 posts is going to be much easier than 6 posts. So that was my idea. And hopefully, at least starting this week, if not, everybody fixes this up for tonight. But going forward, we're all on the same boat.
Yes. Also again, thank you for the one post because I do agree that, people do tend to do the bare minimum for like the most amount of points, but it would be nice if like there was more substance to the conversation, except for like, nice post.
Yep. All right, so I believe that's all I intended to do. Like I said, most of these weeks, I'm also going to kind of pull up the slide decks and add to them. But like I said, these chapter 5 and chapter 6, sourcing materials and services and producing goods and services, are pretty well set up. So I don't believe I need to add any more onto that. Most of the weeks I will have that. But again, like I said, the main focus for this week is let's make sure everybody's on the up and up with the discussion questions, and that everybody recognizes that next week, Thursday is Thanksgiving. So for Unit 4, you might want to start on, let's say you do the quiz Sunday night and then your case study Monday. This way you have more time to complete your other items. Let's say your other classes have other assignments you need to do as well.
Mhm.
And like I said, some of these that I've yet to grade, I'll get started on momentarily. And hopefully they're all in good shape. But you guys still will have until, let's say, 11:59 to go ahead and make sure everything is. So if you had no other questions, Amber, I'll leave it there. And as I showed you guys, if you can't access them, you should just be able to click Zoom and then select cloud recordings, and they should be all listed there. Somebody told me over the weekend that for some reason, when you click on these, it asks for a password. It never asked me to create a password or anything like that. So they'll all be right here on that course blog. The first one is there. The second one is there. You'll notice here that there is a 1/1/2. Once I upload the third one, it'll be 1/3, and you can simply look through them on your own leisure, because Kane Online says, oh, they're supposed to watch them even if they show up. Doesn't sound like most are watching it, but so be it.
Well, thank you for your Zoom. I appreciate it.
No problem. Enjoy the rest of your night. And if you pop into the Zoom next Monday, I'll talk to you next Monday.
Okay, thank you. Have a great week.
You too. Thanks.